Hello, everyone. I will welcome my colleague, and I will welcome also Evie.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Evie. We can hear you, but we can't yet see you.
I have my camera on, nonetheless.
Voilà, now we see you. Great. Hello, Evie. So I will pass the word to Barbara already.
Okay, are we ready to go, or is Rachel coming or joining us, or I start? Okay. So hi everybody. Thank you for joining the Change Management Summit. Today's session is about unleashing innovation in change management. And today present with us are Evie Kempen and Mariève Harmegnies, and myself, Barbara Pinzan. To give you a little introduction about the speakers of today, so Evie has started 12 years ago at the Lijn, and she has started as an intern and climbed up her way to the company, up to the organization and change management expert position today. Evie is from Antwerp, if I'm not mistaken, and she really enjoys the change management and her job at the Lijn. Correct, Evie?
Absolutely right.
And Mariève Harmegnies, she is a senior manager at the PwC Belgium office. She has started 14 years ago at Accenture and then Deloitte. She also, just before joining PwC, led the change management team at AXA Belgium, and she followed a certain structural strategical project at AXA Belgium. And myself started 20 years ago at Accenture as well, and then worked in London, and came back to Belgium, created my own company before joining PwC as director for the change management team. But I won't lose too much time into presenting and into explaining. I will give immediately the word to Evie and to the first presentation of today, pushing cultural change to unlock your organizational potential. Thank you, Evie.
Evie, may I perhaps, so by the moment Evie will switch to presenting mode, she won't see your reaction anymore. So the purpose is that you share your questions, your remark, or your wish to have more information on any topic of Evie what will present, and I will help her moderating the conversation. So don't hesitate to show that you have any interest or any question, and I will help Evie answering it. So Evie, if I interrupt you, I will raise my hand and show you that there is a question for you.
Okay.
So feel free to ask questions in the chat, and I will help Evie to answer it, if any.
Okay, thank you, Mariève. That's very kind. I normally had a colleague joining me, but I think we have some technical problems, so that would be very kind for you to take that role.
Maybe a last point, Mariève. Sorry, Evie, because you're mentioning the questions. Also, after the two presentations, there will be a moment for question and answer, where as well we will invite certain persons who send messages to share their opinion, their comments, and so on. So if Evie is not able to answer maybe to all your comments right now, be patient. At the end of the second presentation, you will be able as well to again raise your question or share your point of view online directly with us. So.
Okay. That's absolutely true. Now I will try to share my screen with you. That's a first technical hurdle to take.
Challenge.
Yeah, first challenge. It's not really working right now. Maybe I'll just, while I'm doing this, introduce myself a bit more. So as Barbara already said, I'm Evie Kempen. I work at company De Lijn. Almost for 12 years now. I'm an expert in organization and change. And within the team, I mostly work on spreading cultural change throughout the organization. And especially, I try to make it stick so that it's not just something on paper. It's not just a fancy poster on the wall. But it's really something that people encounter throughout the company and that they also apply themselves. And of course, that's not something you do all by yourself. You need an enthusiastic HR community to support you with that, and also colleagues throughout the organization. In the meanwhile, I'm still struggling with my presentation.
Maybe in case of, I might as well maybe share your presentation. So give me just a few minutes and I might be able to share it as well. So.
Yeah, the problem is at the moment I have just a black screen. I can't see anything. I'm just going to restart. I'm sorry. It's a problem with my PowerPoint, I'm afraid. So I'm just restarting now, hoping that will fix it.
Let's give you one more minute and then maybe I can
then
present it for you.
Yeah.
So we had a rehearsals. We had a repetition for technical issues, but it's a Murphy law. So
yeah. Yeah, but I think this is a technical issue with the network from the land, to be honest.
Yeah, otherwise there is no challenge, huh, Evie?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, if you
otherwise
want,
we change.
Otherwise, I can try to share it.
Yeah, but I don't see anything. If you want to, Barbara, we can also switch presentations, and then I will try to fix this.
Just let me know if you see your presentation right now. You might be able to see your presentation.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm not seeing anything right now.
Okay, right.
I will have to fix it, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Then anyway, so I have your presentation in case of you have any issues,
Sure,
and we can hear your voice over.
Yeah.
And then we will start with the second presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Evie. So let's be resilient. Let's switch and let's start with the second presentation that was more about the change management essential. Evie was more concentrating on the cultural aspect and how to boost your company through the culture. When we discussed with Mariève, what can we present today, we thought there were a lot of very specific topics that were discussed on COVID and on what to do in terms of change, but they were always very specific. They were always tackling one aspect of the change, one aspect of the issues. And what we wanted today with you guys was to really review what are the essentials. When we think about such terrible crisis that we have been through, we want to support our organization, our company to change, to be more resilient, to emerge stronger from this crisis. There are a number of pillars that we can check, that we can use in order to support our organization. And now, Mariève, I'm going to share my screen and I will leave you the word to present what are those essentials. Thank you. Just give me a second, I'm going to change the presentation. Up.
But the first one is for you, huh?
Okay, so I think I covered a little bit the introduction, right? Nothing new under the sun. We have been through a terrible moment, something that was, I think, for the ones who remember the financial crisis, the banking crisis, all the different crises, such huge crisis that was touching us really up to the heart of our own home. I mean, individually, as company, as a country. I mean, this is really something that we have never seen before, and I hope we won't see so much in the coming future. But now let's focus and let's take time to really reflect on what are those essentials that we can use and reflect upon to define what is the new company, the new organization we want. And Mariève, I will give you the word.
Thank you very much. So what we are seeing right now, and we know we don't have that much step back in terms of time, in terms of analyzing that we can do, but what we see is that the crisis that we have seen on a recurrent basis since 2008, I remember the internet bubble and the crisis economy and so on. What we see is that the changes are regular. This time it's a sanitary crisis. Before it was even a security crisis. And the thing that we see is that as an HR, as an organization even, we have to regularly do a checkup of what we are doing. And this checkup, we can do it under three main axes. So the first one is to review the workforce strategy. So indeed, the company are not going, or perhaps they are going to do it, to review the way they serve their client, their mission, their vision. But even if this mission and this vision doesn't change drastically in terms of HR and in terms of organization, workforce strategy, you can always have an inside out and an outside in review of your workforce strategy. That is essential. And you will see we are not going to speak about massive workshops that you have to organize, but here and there, a sanity check on how are we going, how are we doing right now with our workforce strategy, based on what we see evolving internally and based on what we see evolving externally. An example, we will, Barbara and myself, we will develop this example through the presentations we are having right now, is home working. Home working before was a really trendy something that was popping up on the market, on the new ways of working, was a cornerstone of the new way of working. And as always, you could have early adopters of it. And as always, you could have organizations saying, oh, it's not for us. No, at all. We are not framed for it. It's not in our DNA, culture, DNA, and AV might touch upon it. And now, seeing the COVID, I saw companies bringing laptops at home for their workers to ensure that they could be efficient at work. I saw companies organizing in the rush training so people could use virtual tools in order that the people could have discussions with their client or even discussion with their prospects. That was really visible. So they were pushed in their back. They really unboxed home working and they pushed it on the table so they could face a crisis and be still successful in the crisis. That was really visible. So workforce strategy. The other axis under which you could do a regular checkup, and Barbara, if you could flip over, is the workforce experience. So once again, seeing your company bringing you the laptop via bpost at home is a specific experience. You might not envisage it at first, but it was an experience for these workers, for these employees. And the purpose here is to say, okay, by the moment I see new trends coming and I see that I have to adapt a bit my workforce strategy, what is the correlation with the workforce experience? What does it mean to say, okay, I will bring home working within my organization? What does it mean for my employees? Do I play it really very far or not? So things you can envisage under these glances. And the last axis you might also envisage is also the new way of working and the I lose my word. Barbara, if you can flip over, so then I have the right word and I don't make it more complex than it is to envisage indeed the workforce environments. So indeed, in this COVID context, we were all home. So it was really far to have an impact towards the workforce environment of your employee. But if you have envisaged it and anticipated earlier, you might have, like we have at the PwC, whole equipment to be efficient in terms of virtual interaction with colleagues and with clients. Having the right IT support, having the right tools. Perhaps what we haven't thought about was office at home and ensure that we were physically compliant with the right chair, the right, but was really pushing far the context and the concept of home working. But anyway, this being said, the purpose is really to be more flexible and more agile with what regards crises, suffering on the wave surfing on the wave, instead of being overfloated by it. So this being said, what do we mean with workforce strategy? So whatever your company is changing its mission, its vision, the way the client experience, it's always healthy to have a critical view about the way you are managing your workforces. About the structure you have. Structure is already a heavy topic, but you might say, you might feel, or you might observe that the organization, the structure of the organization is heavy or is not adapted to home working, for example, and you might envisage some changes. You might also see that the processes and the systems that you have are not adapted for the purpose of home working. Again, I'm developing the example of home working. And again, what we are seeing now is also the roles of your organization, your people within the organization towards home working. Which kind of roles are we going to adapt? What kind of roles are going to appear or disappear with the new ways of working, with the home working? What does it mean in terms of KPIs? What do you measure? Do you measure differently your workforces when they are working from home? How do you measure performance? And the circle is really important. And if you will surely come back on it, culture of remote working is really drastically different. And for some company, it's really a gap to feed in order to go towards home working. So the purpose is to say, today we would like to offer you a thinking framework. It's not a new one, but it's here to say, now that we are seeing this crisis coming back again, that we have this pyramid in mind saying, okay, outside in, what's the market or what the new trends of new ways of working, or what are the new trends in HR? Okay, we are not going to buy everything. We are not going to buy everything in the full range of new ways of working, for example, or home working. We saw companies coming back from home working like Yahoo. Yahoo was working 3 days a week and even more, and they saw that interaction with others and interaction within the company was not working. They went back to 2 days. And for a moment, they went back to no home working at all. So we see that you are not obliged to buy everything in the full range, but at least considering and testing yourself and have a criticizing eye on what you are doing is really healthy. And it's what COVID is telling us today. So I will pass the word to Barbara, because the next slide is more her scope. It's about employee experience.
But maybe before switching Mariève slides, I would have a question maybe towards the audience. It's not a polling right now, but I've heard from different clients very different feedback, because you touched very quickly upon, for example, productivity. I've heard certain clients or certain persons saying they are much more productive at home than at the office, where you're constantly contacted by this person, and so on. And I've heard exactly the contrary, where working from home, I am less productive because I have, I don't know, all the busy stuff that I have to do at home and so on. And I'm not capable maybe to focus in the same way. I'm not capable to interact with the people as I would like. So maybe for the later moment of discussion, if somebody has an experience he would like to share about, does he feel that he's more productive working from home, or he's more productive working from the office? I would be very curious to have your feeling, guys, around this topic. And then as well, another topic where I think it's a question that I've received quite on a regular basis from clients is, which roles can be used into the new way of working, into the telework? Can everybody work from home? Are there only certain type of work of roles that can be done from home? So again, if you have an experience you would like to share, you would like to bring today, don't hesitate. An interesting topic to discuss together.
Barbara, I have some reactions in here already. Saying Kirsten Liebrecht from AXA, she is saying that their production went up with 20%. That's a nice figure.
That's pretty impressive, and this is where I really see two opposites. And what is really important for me when I see such a positive, impact, is what did do your organization well to make it work so well? What were, following you, the elements that make it a success? I would really be curious, because sometimes it fails, sometimes it works. Why? And I think it's really going through those type of discussions that we can really progress and, get opinions and make the right decisions for our own organization. So if you could maybe share us, I don't know now, or a bit later about what you think were the elements, or if somebody else in the audience has an example in mind about elements that supported a productivity increase or a productivity decrease. Let's try to understand what are the root causes of.
There are some nice reactions. So Kirsten is saying, okay, more focused meeting. So no blah blah. It's really while some others, like Jan is saying, yeah, productivity went up, but however, manager not comfortable embracing this new way of working. It's culture it's a leader-led thing, yeah. So it's understandable. And more productivity because it's really task focus. So indeed, and sometimes people like to be more task focused, and their manager saying, "What is he doing? I don't see it coming back," and it's really uncomfortable. We see it often, and perhaps Kirsten could, Evie could react later on this.
Yeah, I see as well. Maybe shorter meetings, more focused, and so on. So all of these elements help, right? So thank you guys for sharing those information. Let's keep the good points for later on, and let's move to the next topic, right? And the next topic is focusing more on the upskilling, the workforce, really the workforce experience. So here I've heard again a lot of debates around, do we talk about upskilling? Do we talk about reskilling? What is it? Is it only about training? Is it for everybody? Is it only for people who are transitioning out? And basically, we want to here just to cover what are the key principles of a company that would like to see their employees being more flexible and resilient according to changes in their environment that will probably change the future roles. For example, we see the digital media really growing up, and maybe we will need to spend more time dealing with requests that comes from the social medias, and it's different ways of interacting with the customers. So first step to really understand, what do I need to do for my organization? How can I help my workforce to get through those different changes and to be ready for the next role, to be ready for the next crisis, to be ready for the next change, is first to assess your current environment and identify the skill gap and the mismatch. There, it's really important to first understand, what do you have today in your company? The second step is really to define and deploy what is your future-proof skill strategy. Is what do you need as competencies to be able to face tomorrow challenges? Is somewhere to define at an early stage what is your tomorrow. You need to realize that those type of strategies of skilling can take from 1 to 3 years to be done, depending on the complexity and the gap and the type of changes that your company is going through. So it's something that you need to think in advance and that you really need to plan. So very important. The third step is about development and implementing the upskilling. And here I liked very much one of the remarks of the participants. So thank you very much for bringing this in, because it's comforting me in an impression that I've had at several clients. It's not always the end user, it's not always the employees who are the most resistant to the upskilling, to a change, to a new way of working, like the telework or working from home. Sometimes it's the middle management, and sometimes it's more the managers who have difficulties to do this transition, because before they had, this comfort zone where they had all their employees around them and they could distribute the work, they could check if people were progressing, they could see the things. And now they need to have this trust, and they need to have the capacity to give the autonomy to the people. So in the implementation of this upskilling program is as important as defining it. And it's important as well to have a good change approach that will support your managers into getting up to speed and into reacting in the correct way and into helping the new persons. Another element as well that we have seen is when we try to push mobility in a company, that people do more turns and learn new jobs and are more, polyvalent and so on, then what we realize is that sometimes some managers are reluctant to let their good performance leave. because it's a good performer and they're never sure about the type of persons that will arrive. So very big attention point, get your leadership on board, get your manager on board, and work with them to get those type of programs implemented. Another point is evaluate the return on investment. It's an investment doing an upskilling program, and it's very important to monitor what are the results and to monitor how many people have successfully transitioned off a job, how many people have successfully followed the training. So this is really important because it's essential today to capture all the data and to know if you have done the right things for your organization. I don't know if at this stage you have an experience within your company about upskilling, reskilling, a positive one, a negative one. I mean, do you think that your company will need reskilling, upskilling? And my last question will be, I'm not sure if we will have reaction now or maybe later. Do you think that upskilling might avoid redundancy programs? When we see regularly big companies do big right-sizing, downsizing programs, do you think that if we are better at planning and proactively looking at the competencies, we could avoid those type of programs? I would be very curious to know your opinion about it. So maybe a topic to discuss later. I don't know if there are reactions right now or...
Yeah, there was one from Stella, and she's also speaking about unskilling.
Yeah, that's a very nice concept. Maybe we should further elaborate. I mean, I'm really curious to understand what she means with unskilling.
So Stella, if you could elaborate, or if you want to jump into the discussion, I'm also curious about perhaps using less of some competencies and use more about others. I hope it's about that. Voilà, unlearn old habits, unskilling, letting go of mindsets and ways of work that serve as no more into the new world of work. Yeah, it's to let go some of your comfort zone to embrace other new ones. Then it's about also change management and support into embracing this new way of working. And I have also, Barbara, reactions I would like perhaps also to address. New ways of working and working home sometimes also can lead to unclear limits between home and work, and can also lead to burnouts for the really good and excellent element who want to give more and more and more. And once again, it's absolutely the purpose of our presentation today is to say have a healthy look at the state of fact. That you also accompany your people. One size does not fit all, huh? Never. So, and it's there that's when you're touching people matter, it becomes quite uneasy. But if you see that some recurrent state of fact are popping up, you have to ask yourself the right questions. So indeed, I do agree with the majority of and nearly all the remarks that are there. But once again, when you're pushing such a new thing, it has to still fit into the DNA of your organization and the culture and what your people are ready to embrace as new practices.
Yes, definitely. You're raising here a very important point that, well, we had to do a choice, guys, among all the different topics we wanted to share with you because we only had a limited time. But we had initially into our foundation blocks as well-being. And well-being is a topic that is becoming really top in the CEO, the CHRO's world as being really the point that we need to develop in order to really keep our people motivated and to keep our people on board and performing correctly. We need to take care about their well-being, whether they're working from home or whether they're working from the office. And it's something that is really, and it's really nice to see how it is evolving and how this practice is becoming with very concrete actions and studies as well that shows certain results. So well-being and avoiding the illness of the century, being able to burn out, I mean, is extremely important. And working from home is a danger. So thank you very much, Mariève, and thank you guys for reacting on this topic. Let's maybe continue if it is okay for you guys. And let's move to the third pillar. It's the workforce environment. We are getting into this new way of working topic, and the workforce environment has always been quite essential, and we have seen throughout the different times work being evaluating. We started to work, if I go back 1,000 years ago, into the countryside, then we worked into the fabric, then we created now today these huge companies and offices for white collars and so on. And now my question is, are we at the bridge of a new revolution where those big skyscrapers, company buildings, they will maybe disappear and we will work much more from home? I mean, we left the countryside to go to the city and we moved from type of environment, but now are we going to go back to the countryside? And so it's a very interesting moment to be and to see how we react and how we will evolve. And already there are a lot of studies, and we choose only one, again, for the sake of time, to really show you we have come out of this COVID crisis, or we are coming out of this COVID crisis with certain real changes in our way of working. We really expect to have at least a third of the workforce that will be working from home multiple days a week by the end of 2021. I mean, this is huge, and all the different studies and statistics and reports that we can read go all into the same direction. Now, of course, sometimes it's different roles. Of course, sometimes it's 1, 2, 3 days. What is the best? Is it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days? It depends, again, on your company, your culture, your people. So, but definitely we'll continue to move towards this direction. But how to set up this? How to make sure you have a successful new way of working, that you have a successful remote way of working. And this is where comes this other concept that is quite spread among the market. It's the 3 Bs. It's the new way of working. The 3 Bs being the bricks. So it's the way your office is set. It's the way the layout of your office is done. It's the way how you set up collaborative meeting rooms, silent zone, and so on. Then it's the bytes aspect. It's what is the technology that will help you to work the most efficiently from home, or partially with a part of the team at the office, a part of the team remotely? How do you animate those meetings? I'm pretty sure that many of you have learned new collaborative tools. I won't say Mural, I won't say many others, in order to animate and facilitate your workshop from distance. And that's probably the differentiator, because if I have to say, and I have to look to clients for which there have been successful implementation of new way of working, and clients where it hasn't been successful, the new way of working, it's the behavioral aspect. The behavior really makes the difference into the adoption and the acceptance of the new way of working. And it's often a part that the management forgets. They think if they give you a pretty new office, a pretty new laptop, and they drop you at home and give you all these tools at hand, then you will suddenly work, as before, and even probably more productive than before. The behavior is very important. And this leads me to the next slide that explains what do we mean with a successful behavioral change. And here, based on what we have seen at different clients, and when we look at successful clients that really have this strong and positive dynamic, having people working from home a part of the time, being present at the office on another one, several elements always came back. The first one is shared objectives. Ask yourself, when you look at your own team, how much have you shared your objectives in your team? Are you all looking at the same direction? Are you all agreeing on, okay, now we need to focus on client, we need to make sure we have no backlog on the client request, on the contract treatment, and so on? How far are you into really everybody within the team agreeing on what needs to be done and where do we want to go on the short term and on the long term? Second behavioral aspect that is very important, and we tackled it already at the very beginning of this discussion, is the trust. People management is based on the trust. If your managers don't trust their people, it won't work. But trust also requires, and that's the third behavioral element, it's create autonomy. On one side, you need to have managers who are ready to trust their people, But on the other hand, we also need people who are ready to work autonomously. Again, taking a stupid example, before you had your full team or you were part of a team, your team leader was coming with, okay, this is your job today. And then if you had a problem, if you were stuck, you would call him and it would be quite an immediate question and answer. Now you will need to be much more autonomous, much more proactive. If it doesn't work, maybe you won't be able to reach out immediately to your people manager. You need maybe to switch to another file, maybe to switch to another client and get back during the next team meeting with your manager. So shared objectives, trust, having an ability to work autonomously is really essential. And the last point, and not the easiest one, is stay connected. To share you the experience with our own team here at PwC, we organized at the very beginning of the COVID period coffee breaks together, pizza lunches, aperitivo together, and it was really nice. And at the very beginning, it really helped us into, okay, I see the guys, and it really helped us to stay connected. I have to admit, after 3-4 months, it starts to have a certain fatigue. So now we need to be creative as a team, and we need to find new ways to stay connected, even if we are not, on a regular basis all together. And so it's a constant challenge. Staying connected, communicating, making sure that the team dynamic continues is not an easy element. So I'm not sure if we have among the audience people that have been through a new way of working project. That all of you have been through telework, of course, and digital meetings and so on. I'm not sure if those elements that I am mentioning here are talking to you, or do you see another behavioral element that we should consider? And I would be really keen to have as well your own experience on that topic. I'm not sure if already somebody reacted on the topic we have, as I don't see the messages.
There are a lot of reaction, but we are conscious of time, and we would like not to overrule the time of Evie. So perhaps we can take it to during the Q&A moment, but lots of reaction.
Okay, but let's keep it for the Q&A, and we will make sure to address as best as we can. Now let's move, and Maria, I will give you the word to the wrap up.
Yeah, so it's just to wrap the three elements. So once again, and take in mind all the reactions you are exchanging, because the chat is really heavy now. So the first thing is to have a regular checkup on your workforce strategy. That is really key. That all the things you are leaving now are really vivid, and you can make a great use of it to ensure that. I saw reactions like, we have to work home until end of August. We did too, huh? And we have no normal exchange with our team. Okay, what does it mean? What is the impact? Are we going to keep with this? Why shouldn't we? How are we going to do this? Then the next step is the second element is to see, okay, in what we see coming, do we have to reskill our people, upskill our people, unskill our people? That makes a lot of sense. What do we need? How do we have to accompany our leaders? What does it mean, autonomy at home? For us, what doesn't it mean? Also, it also be the contrary of what we want to see. The negative behavior we don't want to see anymore. And Barbara, if you can flip over for the last point, is to see, okay, based on all what we see coming and our workforce strategy, our workforce's approach evolving, what does it mean in terms of infrastructure, enablement of our workforce? What is the magic recipe we need in our organization to make it work? And once again, it doesn't need lots of workshops, a lot of heavy, deep, and complex thoughts, but what we see really now is use your vivid experience, your vivid emotions, and vivid observations in order to make it a concrete action plan on really moment of truth in your organization. Don't spend hours on processes and workflows. Even consultants say it. I am a consultant, and I really say it. Work on really the impactful moment of truth of your employees, and it will make the difference, really.
In the meantime, I've seen quite a really interesting comments and chat messages I'm receiving in the meantime. And so I've seen one that really strike me. Every disruptions create an opportunity. And I mean, we discussed meeting etiquette. I think guys, you're really touching the right points, and I'm really happy to see and to that you share all these experiences, because this is how we grow all together, right? Mariève, I don't know if you wanted to add something else on the wrap up.
No, thank you very much. I will leave the floor to Evie.
So before leaving the floor to Evie, just a last note. So if you have more questions, you have our details. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. It will be a pleasure as well to collect your feedback, and because we're really interested to understand how this huge crisis has impacted the workforce and how it has impacted your company. So please don't hesitate. We are there to answer your questions. Thank you. So I'm going to leave now and stop sharing the presentation. Hop, to stop sharing the presentation, I have to do this. Voila. Evie, how are you doing?
Fine. It should be working again. Fingers crossed. So you have a point that technology is important. Just let me.
Yeah.
And also thank you for the interesting presentation. And I do recognize some things like the importance of trust and autonomy. You will also hear it coming back in our culture, and it really got a kickstart now with COVID and working from home. It was things that weren't possible before are possible now. So really interesting topic. I'm going to try to again to share my presentation. Let's hope it'll work out. It looks better.
Yes.
Works.
All right, great. Okay, so let's get to it. So the title says pushing cultural change to unlock your organization's potential. Sounds like a fancy title, but I hope it'll get clearer throughout the presentation. First, some things about the Lijn. We are the internal operator of a public transport in Flanders. And as you see in the right corner of your screen, it says it's about bus and tram, so no train. That's another company. We have about 8,509 employees at this moment, of which 5,000 drivers and 700 technicians. So that's rather a large company, and we are also a very visible one. So we easily make the news, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. The goal of our company and our vision is to be a smart and a reliable travel companion for everybody on the move in Flanders. And I can say that everybody in the company is really lives up to that and feels a connection to that goal. Then preparing for the future. Of course, I think everybody is preparing for the future. But for us, we have an extra sense of urgency to do so, because till now we were the only player on the market for public transport. But that won't be the case in the future. So it's European legislation that says that the market for public transport will be liberalized. So that means that we have to pass a benchmark at the end of this year. And to prepare for that benchmark, we started a big reorganization in 2018, at the end of 2018, that run through 2019. So that creates in the company some kind of sense of urgency. Things that weren't possible before and unthinkable before are possible now. We have an urgency to focus on being efficient, on being more efficient, on productivity, and on customer centricity. And I will get back to that later. We cannot do a structural reorganization without paying attention also to the culture. But this just to give a bit of a background. And of course, needs no saying that we see the future positive, and we are confident that we will make the benchmark. But on the other hand, of course, it also creates a bit of uncertainty in the company. I think that's logical. Then also on the background, where do we come from as a company in terms of culture? I posted 3 pictures. I think they speak for themselves, but I will translate. So the first one you see, it was a very tall organization, lots of layers, lots of bosses. It also brought with it a certain culture. There was really a focus on control. There were small teams. You had a supervisor. They really saw all their employees. They were usually working together in an office. They could really literally see them working and supervise them. There was a lot of control, really in detail also. And also in job rotation, it also meant that you, when you work a few years at a company, or you think I really deserve to make a promotion, or I'm the expert on my terrain, then it was almost logical that you made a promotion to a level higher. So that also made that people applied for a job, not really all the time because of the job, but because it was the time to do so, and they thought they deserved it somehow, but it weren't always the real people managers who got the job. So that's where we came from. It was also very hierarchical. When I entered the company 12 years ago, where I started, it was not done to talk to somebody a level higher. Of course, yes, that was your direct supervisor, but a level above that, it was really not done. And you even had to address the person with their second name. So you had to say Mr. or Mrs. that. So I always thought that was very funny. Then let's move to the second picture. You see a little guy that is drowning in paperwork. That means, we have a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of paperwork, a lot of rules, a lot of procedures. It's not always, the easiest way to do things. Also, when I started at the company, I started in administration at damage claims. And sometimes we had to make a lot of copies in that time. And we had to print things on certain types of colored paper. And one day I asked, well, why is this? Why are we doing that? And then they said, it's because some guy 20 years ago said that was the way to do it. We should print this on a blue paper. And I said, you don't know why, and you still do it. Let's stop. Let's stop doing this. And I said, no, that's really not an option. So to give a bit of an idea what that means. And then the third one, you see a lot of people working together in a team, being cheerful. And that's to me also the culture of the Lijn. We really have a family culture. I always say that it's like a big village. We are very friendly to each other. Most people also work for a long time for the company, are very loyal to the company. But on the downside of that is that we are maybe sometimes too nice to each other, and that we don't always address the things that need to be said. Now, of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit to make it clearer where we come from. So why focus on company culture now? As I said, we are preparing for the future, and we do that also through a structural reorganization. We moved to a more flat organization, a functional organization, and a more centralized organization.
Kirsten, I don't know if you will address the question, but there is a question popping up. As Yanis was asking, are you using a top-down or a bottom-up approach to achieve this? So in case you would have an answer to this.
Yeah, I think it will come later in the presentation, but I can say for now that we started with a new culture, a bit top down. But then afterwards we started, and that's also the role of change, on working on getting it to spreading it around the company. And the choice for that was because it needed to be fast. If you start top down, it takes more time. It's also, I'm convinced that it's also a good approach, but it takes more time. And I can also say that when implementing the new culture, and you will see later that we have some action words, and so that almost everybody in the company says, yeah, we recognize this. This is what we need to work on. So yeah, I do have the feeling, although it started top down, that everybody can agree with the new culture and where we want to go, if that's an answer to the question already.
It is.
Okay. So as I said, we were preparing for the future. We, next to the structural reorganization, we also needed to focus, of course, on culture. And why is that? We need to focus on ownership, on autonomy, on trust, and on accountability. You also saw before the manager in the strict hierarchy, who really can supervise their people. But when you work in a more centralized organization across Flanders, you don't always have your team with you in the same building, in the same room. You sometimes only have a team meeting once a week, so that requires another style of leadership, of course, and also on trust, and that also comes up with working from home. It requires other behavioral skills from managers. So that's really a switch we needed to make the reorganization work in practice. And that's of course also what the picture above says. It refers to the quote, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." So if you don't have the people on board, you're never gonna make the structure work. I included then why company culture matters. I included this slide because it's something I encountered myself a lot. Especially in the more technical parts of the company, you often get the remark, yeah, culture, all fine, but let's first do the real work that needs to be done, and then culture, yeah, we'll see later. It's something from HR. It's something maybe some people consider a bit fluffy. But that's why I included the slide in the beginning. I was like, I didn't know what to say to that, and then I was thinking on the way home, what can I say? But there is actually a good case to be made, and so I say culture is very invisible, but it's very real. It influences how we work and how we collaborate within the organization. It does affect efficiency and results, and you can make it concrete. It really helps to give an example to people. I think everybody can imagine a project that would have gone better if the culture was adapted, if people felt able to address the things that needed to be addressed, if they were working efficiently, if there was trust in the team, and so on. So you can make it really concrete. Then let's move to our new culture, like our desired culture. We try to make it actionable by simplifying it into 5 action words. So the words are simplify, discuss, dare, engage, and trust. I think they speak for themselves, but we really wanted to make it actionable so that everybody could relate to them. They could use them. It became a bit of a common language within the company, and it's also a way to address it, like let's say on a meeting. You can say, hey, how are we doing on discussing? Are we really telling it as it is? Are we daring to name the elephant in the room. Are we simplifying? Are we making things too complicated? So it's something everybody can relate to. They can use it in a conversation. And also important, it's a call to do something with it yourself. So when we show the words and we say this is where we want to go, everybody says, yeah, fine. I totally recognize this. I see this everywhere around me. Things should change. People should do it differently, but they don't always look at themselves. So they can. We always try to say you can also do small things yourself in your everyday work life. Because if everybody says, yeah, I see this, but everything around me has to change, of course, nothing changes. So it's also a call to action yourself. Then how do we promote the desired culture? We work on 4 levels. We try to make it visible. We try to talk as much as possible and think about it together. We try to nudge people in the right direction. That means a gentle push in the right direction. And we try to incorporate it in as much things as possible. So let's move to the rabbit first. That says make it visible. How do we do that? You can put it on the walls in the form of posters. We have posters with the action words on them, but we also have posters with colleagues who say, "Hey, I have something with that action words, and there's also a quote of them on the poster that says, this is how I put this into practice. So that when you walk through the hallway, everybody sees, I know this guy, and this is how he does this. So that you can relate to it. Then we also have in meeting rooms, we have little displays. So that people can say when you are in a meeting, like I said before, you can say, hey, are we really simplifying things? Are we discussing what needs to be discussed? We also have a culture page on the intranet where you can find all kinds of information around the new culture and also tools to use, tips and tricks.
Justin, now that you are about this, there were 2 questions, and the chat is answering also to it, but I think it's the right moment. How do you make culture concrete? And the answer in the chat was, but you define behaviors for culture. And then the remark was, but what does it mean there for a bus driver? We made a bit of fun of it, but there's perhaps dangerous for a bus driver, but is it sensitive for a bus driver what there means for him or her?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, to be honest. The bus drivers are hard to reach. You don't get them often in a room together to really explain it. But I might give an example. I had a team coach who was telling me, I always thought, it's difficult to get it to the bus driver, and how are we going to apply it? And actually, the team coach, that is the direct manager of a group of drivers, he said to me, hey, why don't you give me something to put on my desk about the new culture and about the 5 words? Because I have nothing now to address my drivers about it, to speak about it. And I can say, when they come to me with a situation, with a client or with a colleague, I can say, hey, think about it. How would you apply this word yourself to the situation that you're bringing to me now? So of course, he asked the question, and we arrange it for all their colleagues to have something to put on their desk. So they really have to make it happen on the floor. Let's say they need to discuss it, they need to talk about it, and I must say that it was a layer of managers that we added with a group of drivers underneath them, and they were really selected also on their people skills. So they really have it in them to discuss it, and they are really willing to do it also. But nonetheless, it is an issue how to translate it further. It's not a group that you can reach easily.
And do you have some kind of in the term of make it visible, some kinds of heroes you could promote? Because it's another way to say, okay, since it's hard to to translate into really concrete behaviors and have a template and a frame to say it's this kind of behavior. You do you have this hero that you put in front saying, okay, this guy, he made this. That is really the dare or simplify or whatever the other words you apply to your new culture.
Yeah, sure. We don't really call it heroes, but we do try to put people in the picture that are really good examples. We do that on in the company magazine, by example, also on the internet. We make little movies also with people telling, hey, this is how I understand this word and how I apply it. This is what it means to me. They also give a tip to their colleagues. So we have the little movies. We have articles in the magazine. We also we have little vignettes that we use with the culture words that we put also in the magazine. We spread it throughout different articles on projects, on things that are happening within the company, and that we say, hey, this is a nice example of simplifying things. This is a nice example of trust. So we do try to put good examples in the picture. Yeah. I don't know if that's an answer to the question. Okay, maybe, or else we get back to it later. I was stuck on the intranet. We also put the posters on lock screens, on your desk, what I said with the team coaches. We have little stickers on the laptop. We have gadgets with cultural words on them, and then we have the articles in the company magazine. So we try to use every communication channel that's available to talk about it. Then we also try to talk and think about it in practice and make people talk about it. So as I said before, the exercise, the culture exercise actually started within the management committee. There they discussed what the desirable culture was to make the structural reorganization really work. That was the first step. Second step was to get all managers on board. They got a big kickoff event to immerse them in the new culture, the new ways of working. What I said earlier, working with remote teams, coaching more on results, letting loose of control. They all got trained in that, they got immersed in that, and later on they also could get training if they wanted to. Then we try to make it also set as concrete as possible for everybody. Something I forgot to say, we also have little sheets that we spread with a happy smiley face and a sad smiley face to make the words even more concrete and to translate it also to behavior. So that everybody can relate to it and get it.
What I really like
Of course.
about if I may, Evie, what I really like in what you're explaining
Yeah,
is that you really feel that what you have built up as a strategy to really embrace your culture and to really use your culture, this engagement of the people within the company, is that you really talk to them with their own words. You're really close to them, you understand them, and there is really a direct contact. And I think engagement is not always so big into all the companies. And I have to say, when at the beginning you talked about, the love that you have for your company, that you're being proud to be at the company, and the people being engaged and staying for a long period into a company. Not sure there are many companies that can claim to have this type of engagement. So really, congratulations. And now when I hear the type of message that I'm not surprised. It's really very interesting. Thank you, Evie.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's really what we're trying to do, because if it stays with some hollow abstract words, then it's not going to work. You have to translate it so that everybody gets it and can use it in their own work and in their own reality, I guess. Maybe, yeah, I said a few things from on the slide. Bring it up during meetings, bring it up during training, try to make the link with training. Then we also have a team of culture coaches. Those are people throughout the organization who also have an enthusiasm to work on culture. And what we let them do is they facilitate the discussions about it. Sometimes it's in a team meeting, And sometimes it's also an open call for people who would like to discuss like one action word, by example. And then the culture coaches, they just facilitate the sessions. And there are sessions of let's say an hour and a half, where people can get together and think about what does it mean to me? What can I do myself? What do I need to make it happen? So it's just a reflection moment on it. And we actually also did it to make the link to what does Corona do with our organization, and can we find a link with culture? So that was also a session we did. Then let's move to the nudging part. Yeah, that's the obvious ones. Lead by example, encourage the right behavior. That's of course a matter of leadership. Give a stage to good examples. That's already been said. Compliment each other also for doing it right, for putting it into practice. We also had little compliment cards that you could send to each other, like, hey, you're doing a good job on that. We also did a team competition around the new culture, and that was really a success. We got really nice candidates. For that, we asked them to send a photo of their team with a link to the new culture, and we also asked them to motivate why they are making it happen. And we really got some nice results on that. Then the last one says incorporated. We have the advantage as with the whole team of organization and change that we try to work on the people side also from different projects. And as much as possible, we try to, let's say, marinate those projects with culture. So that doesn't always have to be really explicit, but it's often in how you frame things, how you tell, how you make the link to culture in an implicit way sometimes. But it's important, I guess. Yeah, we also use it as a framework for coaching conversations with our employees. We don't really have an evaluation for everybody, but we call it coaching conversations. So it's incorporated in that. And then for members of the board, there is an evaluation, and there also culture is incorporated in it.
There was a question, Evie, from Jan Danens. If the passengers in the bus can give compliments to the driver, would be great for his or her sense of purpose. I think there we are touching a very sensitive point and very truthful point. So, what would be your answer to that point, Evie?
Actually, it was not framed in culture, but we already had a campaign. I'm thinking it was last year with compliments that our clients could give a compliment to a driver, and there was a whole campaign, but it was managed by marketing. But we did that already. Yeah.
Did it give good result? Did you feel? Did you receive some positive feedback about bus drivers? Maybe it's quite a hard work, right? And maybe in helping them to get the motivation to continue and to smile to customers and so on. Was it something that helped reinforced the sense of purpose and so on?
Yeah, I think a compliment anyway does you good. So yeah, of course, such a campaign is a good thing. I think. And when it comes to motivation and the bus drivers, I also would like to make the link to Corona. We also saw the Lijn was before Corona often a bit negative in the news, but it also reflects on our bus drivers, of course. But with Corona, there was like a new drive and a new positive image, I think, of the company that a lot of bus drivers also felt. They were like, there also was a campaign of like, we are heroes. We are still making that you get from A to B. And we're in this together, and we are proud that we are in this together, and that really lived. And they also they made little movies that they posted on social media themselves with their team, with their local division. So it really, in a way, was a positive effect from Corona. So
Oh, nice. I mean, good. I mean, but there are heroes for sure. I mean, it was especially into that moment so great that it helped and that it contributed to the sense. And it will have an impact on the longer term, I'm pretty sure. So,
Yeah, sure.
thank you, Evie.
So then the last point I was to take into account also the desired culture when recruiting, which is of course also essential. Then a bit lessons learned from ourselves working on culture. I named 4, but there's probably more. So there is more than one way to work on culture. You have to experiment, try things out, keep looking for new ways. Listen to other people's perspective throughout the company, and you don't have to do everything by yourself. Sometimes people have really good ideas, and you just need to support them and go with it. Also try to make it concrete and applicable so that everybody understands. Look for ambassadors within the company. That's also a bit what we do with the culture team that we have, and so that they can translate it further on and take it with them, spread the word. And also be honest and be realistic, because sometimes people say, hey, this is not a new culture. Oh, what do I see now? This can't be true. Yeah, it's Rome wasn't built in a day, and the new culture will also not be there in a moment. So yeah, you have to be realistic about it, and you can only do what you can do yourself, and you can also address people about it. So that's also what the words do. You have a language to say, hey, this is what you're doing is not discussing. It's not trust that you're showing me right now. So that's also, you have to also address it yourself. It's a two-way street, let's say. But we have to be also realistic in that and manage expectations and don't, yeah, people cannot expect that everything is done in a day. So I think that was the most important. So I'm first. I also have some questions for you, but I'm going to look at the time and I'm going to first listen to your questions. Barbara, you can help me with the time because I'm a bit lost on the time.
No,
Do I have some
you're
time?
doing great. You're doing absolutely great,
Okay.
Evie. And we still have certainly 17, 18 minutes for the questions. And it's as you prefer, Evie. Or we can invite somebody that has waved and mentioned that they would like maybe to come on the
Yeah, sure.
moderation panel.
Sure, that's fine.
And Mariève, what do you think? Do we proceed?
We can welcome the questions. There are reactions, Evie, if you take a while for, because there are some reactions in the chat. The chat is really active. I have a thought to share because my experience with the culture transformation is that indeed you have plenty of ideas. You try to be as most pragmatic as you can, because then it can take ages, or you can be stuck in training program for manager who are busy. Indeed, there are some reactions saying, okay, culture transformations goes with managers and middle manager who are overloaded with work. But at the moment you touch any behaviors, and I will make it really concrete, you have companies saying, okay, experience, client experience is the most important ever. Really makes a lot of sense. And then you have the consequences of it is that you ask, for example, your driver to be, or driver, or any employee who is in a direct interaction with client to be more qualitative oriented. You have to have our organization signature is that you have to take more time to be more listening to the client, to guide him, or to answer the right, to give the right answer. But behind the scene, you see that the processes are still not measuring and still not oriented on the quality, but on the quantity. You have not your system, your processes, your KPI aligned so that they support this new behavior. They play against it, and that is really, really hard, because it's the reason why, in my experience of culture transformation, to take step by step on what are the most critical behaviors in that area or for that client experience or for that department. And then you work really bits and pieces, and then you see, yeah, indeed, and Jan is reacting, is really systemic change. Every time you take a step, you ensure that your systemic is well adapted to support it and then to enrich it, and then when it's okay, you take the next step. And that is really, and in each time it requires all your management chain to be with you and to support, and it's really, it's a long process. It's really a long process.
It is a long process, and the reality will always be that not all management is on board.
Absolutely.
If we're honest about that. But as more as we can spread it throughout the company, more managers will also look at their colleagues and see, hey, maybe what I'm doing is not the right thing. And the more people you see doing the right thing, the more I guess you will feel obliged to, maybe I should look at myself.
Okay, guys, maybe if it's okay with you, we can maybe invite somebody that has raised a wave maybe to join us. Kristen, I'm talking to you. You mentioned meetings are more focused. You raised this very interesting statement about the increase of 20% of productivity. You also mentioned that the reasons were less blah blah, less issues, less sick leaves. I mean, all very interesting information, and I would like really to know a little bit more about it. Kristen, is it okay if we invite you? I'm going for it. Hello, Kristen. Welcome.
I'm locked in the bedroom because my daughter is claiming the entire house. So I'm sorry for the background.
It's okay. It's no big deal. It's okay.
It's yours. Yeah.
It was really a very interesting statement, Kristen. Can you elaborate, share a little bit your experience on this increase of productivity, and what do you think were the root causes, right?
And how did you measure it? My question is, how did you measure it?
To paint a picture, telework in AXA, as Mariève already knows, is quite usual. We did it already. People were used to doing it 2 days a week, but not with children in the house. So actually, we experienced the opposite. People are begging us that they can come back to the office, actually. But what we noticed is that there is a lot less small talk, a lot less discussion on things, because when we got the announcement of all the measures and people had to start working from home, all public events were cancelled, we had quite a panic in the company. Not like panic, everybody freezes and doesn't know what to do, but in June, we had quite an important release in the IT department, and there was a lot of at stake. And we had a lot of fear that we would not make this release. And by some wonder, people started working like crazy. Test issues were solved much quicker than before. We noticed people working till 12 at night. We really had to say to them, stop working. You need to take a break. It became very unhealthy. So we came at a point that we had to say to people, you're very productive, but hold your horses because we're in this for a long time. So how we measured it, we noticed that project scope was progressing ahead of timelines. So we were saying, like, this is not usual. Normally in this point in a project, we would be behind schedule, and now we're ahead of schedule. We also have agile teams. They had a lot more features released, 20% more features released in June. And we're now 2 weeks after the major release, and the amount of issues are so small. We are wondering ourselves what happened and whether we should have a release in quarantine every year. But on the other hand, as I said before, people really miss working in the office. Before, we were in a company already used to telework, but as for young parents as myself, it is really stressful to combine your work with children in the house. And we notice that the well-being of our people is deteriorating because they really miss being focused at work in the office. And we made the conclusion that our employees and our colleagues are really committed to their responsibilities because we already had that culture. They are really intrinsically motivated to get things done, and they just made sure things were done. But it goes beyond their own health, and that is sometimes a big problem.
Yes, thank you, Kristen. There is as well a reaction from Margarida Temudo that was raising the point that you mentioned at the end about the fact that it can be really overwhelming, and sometimes it comes with shortcuts and downturn. I don't know, Margarida, if you want to participate, if you want to join the platform to explain, as you have a slightly different angle, so we can really see all the different type of reactions. Up to you, otherwise of somebody else, and then I would say it's fine. Don't hesitate to wave if you want, Margarida. Otherwise, we have had as well some really nice comments from as well. For example, I take just first one, Jan, about the huge improvements, the work-life balance, but a higher risk for disconnected employees. I think as well here, this risk of, and Kristen, you touched it very briefly as well, is okay, you do shorter meeting, but you have less time than to really, as also Margarida said, think, and as Jan said, maybe to connect as well with your colleagues, right? So, I don't know if Igor or Mark or Jack have a point of view on that topic as they raise their hands, but otherwise we can maybe invite somebody else at the moment, or Jan, if you raise your waiver, it's also possible. Otherwise, as well, Jan Martin van Damme, very, very nice intervention as well, more chances for burnout. I think we mentioned it.
Yes.
HR must have proper guidelines. I think this is really a responsibility that we have indeed. And as you said, for example, us, we had to put 5 days holidays in June because nobody took holidays and everybody was working overtime. And we had to oblige people, look, it's going to be fine. You can take a day off, go and see the light. And
but then it's there also that you see when you have some major company, they can face like you said, Kirsten, AXA was already used to home working. So when it comes to overrule home working, you can say, okay, guys, take a step. You have the credibility, but when you see a major company, it is not a judgment at all. A major company with regards to home working, when it comes to see these issues coming and to deal with it properly, to have credibility, to have the right answers by the right people within the company, it takes a long time, while you have to be really quick on the ball. So it's there that we come back also to the things to say, okay, business is going really fast, crises are coming really fast, disruption is coming also really fast. So whatever you are considering culture or new ways of working or whatever, you also have to be quick on the ball and have healthy checkups of your organization and have these procedures regularly, to have touch points and checkups moments to ensure, okay. And if it's just you have projects or ideas that you have in the box, at that moment you really need it, you unbox it and you deploy it. But it's there that the resilience of the people depends also on the resilience of the companies. And resilience is also about anticipation, and that is not easy, but it requires a lot of monitoring of inside and outside of where you are.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy one.
I see as well that Yanis is reacting, and I see as well a link with the culture when we see about the risk of adopting shortcuts and make, for example, working long hours to the new room. Yanis, do you want to join us on the panel? Do you want to share a word with us? Or maybe it's not possible. Okay, I'm going to invite you. Thank you, Kristen. I'm going to stop sharing and well done.
Yeah. That people do not see my husband's wardrobe.
Perfect. Take good care of you, Kristen.
Bye, Kristen. Thank
Bye.
you. I think it's coming. Technology. I've clicked on the name of Yanis. It should be the right process. Hello, Yanis, can you hear us? Because we can't see you, but maybe we can hear you. Technical issues, I guess. Ah, pity. Ah. Another person, Stella Loanidou, who has also made really interesting remarks about as well the unskilling. I liked it very much. Letting go of mindset and ways of working. Stella, don't hesitate. Otherwise, if we can't connect to Yanis, we will maybe try to reach out to the moderation panel. There were as well certain questions on culture. I don't know if somebody wants to react more on the culture aspect about what Evie shared. There were nice discussions around how to implement a behavior. What is the link between behavior and systemic change? There were as well some really interesting comments. Okay, I think Yanis is trying to get his setup done.
Maybe
yes.
Maybe I can also add a bit about the link between culture and the working from home, because we also had, like I said, sessions with people who wanted to do this and to talk about what it did to them, the working from home, and what Corona meant to them. And I must say it was a really mixed story, but also I think people saw a lot of opportunity in it. And in the beginning, it was a big adaptation for them, but they found their way in working from home, and they also started to see the benefits of it, because you can say, yeah, it is a risk that you work long hours, but on the other hand, you're not stuck in traffic. Sometimes you can work a bit more at ease in your own environment. You can work through. A lot of people also said we can skip unnecessary meetings. They just go away now. All of a sudden, when you're working from home, every meeting doesn't seem to be necessary anymore. And also people said that on the level of trust, they experienced a lot more trust from their manager, because they said, yeah, now we are really working on results. I don't feel that I have to be at my desk and my manager has to see me typing there. But I really feel trusted, and I can go to the supermarket, let's say, at noon and be back maybe a little bit later than normal, but my manager knows I will get the things done when it suits me. I can get my children from home. So it's the reactions we got were mixed. There was also about the connecting thing that needs attention, of course, but it really wasn't all negative, and I really didn't hear everybody saying we want to go back as soon as possible to the company and work every day from there, to be honest. So yeah, I think
Thank you, Evie. I see that we are getting close to five. Unfortunately, time flies when we have fun, right? And I just wanted to, if there are no urgent questions or urgent point that you would like to share before finishing this, any tips to improve connecting? We have a last question before finishing. Any tips to improve connecting? Thank you, Margarida. And on my side, to improve connecting, it's for me, it was not something that it will come naturally, in the sense that when you're working from home, it has really something that you have to plan and to think ahead. Because in the office, you will cross somebody and you will talk. There will be this physical proximity that makes it easier to connect. So the first thing is really to think about it and to really plan things that interest people. I also realized with our team meetings that sometimes we didn't have a topic to discuss, and we started to talk a lot about the weather. Oh, it's nice outside. Yeah, great. Yeah, it's nice. Oh, today is rainy. So we really tried then to really formalize, and everybody took his role. For example, I remember Arnaud, that is also present today, and by the way, thank you, Arnaud, for your contribution today. Did a very nice quiz, and I saw as well into the remarks somebody suggesting a quiz. It worked very well. I have to say we had a lot of fun. We learned a lot about the people, so it was really nice. So I don't know, Mariève or Evie, if you would like to share something else, a nice way to get connection in between the persons.
Yeah, we also do like coffee time, lunch breaks. Sometimes we exercise together with colleagues. Yeah, there's lots of things. And then within the team, we also have connecting time 2 times a week. We have half an hour that we just talk informal things and not about work. So
we had a party. We had one of our partners is a DJ, so he was mixing for all the organization, and we were chatting just to ask for new sets of music, and it was funny. We were just listening to the same music at home. It was on a Friday, but it was funny just considering that we were having a bit of fun together, even if it was remotely. But the guy, he was having fun because we were asking really crazy requests about holdies and so on. But it was fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds fun.
Yes, well, Kristen has reacted. I'm sending thank you postcards by old schoolmate to my team. That's really nice as well. But would you have other questions? I mean, again, thank you everybody for joining. And Jan has heard of a lot of new WhatsApp groups with everyday challenges. Very nice. For instance, post a song about topic X. I will take that one. Jan, thank you very much for bringing it. And thank you everybody for joining the session. Thank you for the organization of this Change Management Summit, and to all the team, Rachel and Victoria, that has been very helpful. We look forward to meet you in person. We hope in September, right? It's today planned as this. And don't hesitate to reach back to us if you have any further questions. And I really appreciated the moment and everything that you have shared. So thank you very much, Mariève, Evie, and all the different participants and the organization.
And the organization, take good care of you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a nice afternoon. Bye.